Hey, it's Lauren here from the Boom Loom. What I have in front of me is the new model, and I just want to take you through some of the features quickly and show you some of the fun stuff that you can do on this. This is the new Boom Loom Boss. It's powder coated aluminum, all one piece. Oops. The way it works is it has these pattern bars, and these are basically heddles, if you know about weaving, that do the work to separate the threads for you. If you know our old version, our previous original model, which has the same feature but embedded in the frame, now these bars go all the way around instead of just back and forth, and that means that they can actually make patterns. So more on that in a minute, but I want to show you how neatly this design is made. So unlike a lot of looms where there's a bunch of pieces, you have to assemble the loom, or you've got a heddle that you have to thread through, or that's more complicated, this is just two pieces. I wanted this to be sort of as user-friendly and intuitive as possible. So let me show you how it warps. So these pieces at the end are the keeper slots, and they just make it easy to warp your loom. You just wrap it around, and then you start wrapping around the teeth, the pins. When you've done the whole thing and you get to the end, you just wrap it around again a few times around the keeper slot on the other side and cut it off. And then you put in the heddle bar. And the heddle bar is made, the design is made so that when you slide it under the warp threads and you push it up against the frame, it aligns. And then it slots in. So let's look at how that heddle bar, that pattern bar, separates the threads. So basically when the pattern bar is flat on top, you see it's a cube, and when it's flat on top, that means that your shed is the widest. And this is a plain weave bar. I don't know if you can see that. It says plain on it. And so, you know, plain weave, there's only two sheds, which are the openings. So there's the one, and then there's the other one. You just go between 1 and 2. All right, we're going to weave a couple rows. I'm going to use some nice thick yarn to show you how it works. So it doesn't really matter which warp you start in, but I'm going to start in 1. And I'm passing my yarn through up at the top because that's where the shed is largest. And I've got a little baby beater comb. So that was shed number 1, and now I'm going to switch it to number 2. All right, so far so groovy, right? This looks like a basic loom. So you could just do that forever. You could weave yourself a whole little piece. If you use wool or old t-shirt strips or some other fabric like that, you could have a nice little hot pad and pot holder. But now I'm going to show you what makes this loom really cool, and that is that there are other pattern bars, and they make all kinds of patterns just like a 4-shaft loom, only with just this little guy. So I'm going to use it in the same way. Now your pattern bars, they use what's called a floating selvage, which is a half height thread at the beginning and end of every row. And the way you use those is really simple. You go under it on the way in and over it on the way out. So here I am using this pattern bar, and I'm just advancing it every row I'm going to show you what is happening. Under it on the way in, over it on the way out. I'm going through the shed the same way as the plain weave. And see what's happened? You've started to get a twill, and all you did was go through the shed. You didn't have to go in and out. That is your pattern bar. So we have a ton of pattern bars, which I'm super excited about. For this new release, we have these three: the plain weave, the twill, which I just showed you, and a diamond pattern, which I'll show you in a minute, and that's also based on the twill. And then these are our two upcoming ones. Super excited about this: crockbrog or croakbrog, maybe you say it, and a monk's belt pattern. These are awesome. They require a little more because you have to use multiple colors of yarn to make them look cool. So I'm going to be releasing those in just a little bit. But your twill based ones, you can just use one color and it still looks cool. So right here, you can see the twill. This is the twill. And then what happens is I'm rotating the pattern bar in one direction, right? 1, 2, 3, 4 through the positions. And when I reverse the direction and I start weaving it in reverse, the twill diagonal starts going in the other direction. So this is from the diamond pattern bar. And what happens with the diamond pattern bar is when you reverse, you get either an X or a diamond. So I'm going to show you how that works real quick. We're starting on one with diamond. I'm going to go in. I'm really excited about these bars. I think there's so much potential. You're never going to make like a tablecloth on this loom. But I kind of think of this as like a little calculator. If your 4-shaft, your 8-shaft, your big floor looms are the supercomputers, this is kind of like a little high-powered calculator. And you can work out all sorts of weave structure problems. You can play around. The fact that it's a rotary motion kind of makes it real intuitive. The pattern just kind of emerges. Like you just decide when you want to reverse, or maybe you just want to go back and forth, or maybe you just want to go randomly. I've done that. Here's one that I did randomly. You can see that I did the diamond pattern up here. I used for the warp thread, I used a nice hot pink yarn, which pops real nice against the blue. And then here, I decided I was just going to try to make it look bad. And I couldn't really. I still think that looks cool in a kind of like a weird Space Invader-y kind of way. This is another one I've done with the diamond. I also used plain weave. But this is all just with that diamond pattern bar, this same one, messing around with additional pieces of yarn. And I don't know, I think that looks amazing in kind of like an old friendship bracelet kind of way. Here's another one that's similar. Very tasteful, I think, that one. And then this is this monk's belt pattern that I will show you later. And this one is the crocksbrog that is with this green pattern bar. And you just use multiple colors. This is like an early sample that I wove, I think, on a prototype. I love this though. And there's a ton of potential with croakbrog. This is another pattern bar I've been working on. This is a rose path. For those of you that are weavers and have woven on larger looms, you'll know this pattern. This is a WIP, but I think that is looking pretty good. This is just my test. Okay, so one more thing I want to show you. One more feature of this loom, a couple more features. There's these two holes which can be used to install it. You screw down through the front and install it like on a workbench or a tabletop or a board. And these bigger holes are designed so that you could actually hold a drawing underneath your warp. Here I've got just a simple watercolor I did of a flower. And then you can use your plain weave and you can use it to do a little tapestry. And that's what I did. There are simple techniques for joining the shapes of color, and they're not hard to learn. Kids can do this. They can draw a simple picture or a shape and then figure out how to make it in yarn. Thanks for watching, you guys. I'm super excited about this little model. This is just a really simple, a really accessible way to get going, and it's also powerful enough to keep you more expert weavers interested. I'm going to be posting videos with different techniques and different pattern bars, so subscribe if you want to see those, and thanks for watching.